Hey, what's up guys, it's YDS Host Tyler Beltz here at Java Hut in downtown Ferndale. The August 5th election is days away, so we are your #1 source tracking the candidates for you guys. I want to introduce you guys to Joe McHugh. First of all, I want to say thank you for joining us and allowing us to interview you today.
Thanks,
it's nice meeting you. So when did you decide that you wanted to run for office?
Probably 23 years ago, when I was 12. I was sitting down watching watching the news with my parents, and I saw all sorts of problems on the television. It seemed like there were obvious solutions for it, but yet it didn't seem like anybody was actually implementing those solutions. And you spend enough time observing, and eventually you decide you just want to do something.
Right, so obviously ever since you were 12, want to get in there, take action, get things done, for sure.
Pretty much.
So what would you say to young people out there that are watching this interview that may want to get into the political backgrounds?
Well, first things first. I mean, we've got 2 weeks before the election. So if you're sitting at home and you're watching this interview and you want to get involved in politics at some point, the best way to do it is to get involved in this campaign. It's a grassroots campaign. We're building from the ground up. It's non-traditional. We're not just Democrat. We're not Republican. I'm on the Democratic ticket, but it's very progressive, very liberty-minded, and it's about American values. And so it's something that I feel that a lot of people have been craving for, but just haven't been getting it. It's like the lesser of two evils. So what we're doing here is we're offering exactly what people have been asking for. So hey, go to the website, go to renewmichigan.us, and then sign up there. Get involved. We've got a big need in the next 2 weeks to get on the ground, knock on doors, make sure everybody knows that we've got a candidate out there that stands for what we're looking for: eco-focus, legalized cannabis, women's rights, gay rights, and a strong middle class. So those are key issues that people just don't seem to have the right representation for. And so I said, the heck with it, we're just gonna run on what's right.
Mm-hmm. So as you guys always know, there's also those other candidates that are trying to get you guys' votes. So what separates you from candidates such as like Andrew Sissel, Rudy Sarah, Kelly Williams, just to name a few? What sets Joe McHugh apart from those other candidates?
Well, Tyler, I'm glad you asked. I love answering this question. I mean, first off, everybody in the race, they're all good people. But the biggest difference is the experience that I bring to the table. As a Marine officer, as somebody who's deployed twice, who's led men and women, both at home and overseas, and worked with the strongest leaders that this country has to offer, I think it's clear that the state needs help in that area. We're not listening to the people, and that's what I can bring to the table. I listen. I've got leadership experience. I've led at home. I've led abroad. So that's the biggest thing. Now the second thing is that I also have a strong background in finance and economics, and Michigan has multiple multi-billion-dollar problems. Right? We've got student loan issues. We've got road issues. We've got oil spills in the Great Lakes. I mean, we've got K through 12 issues. I mean, there are issues all over the place. And the commonality between all of it is money. And you can't just tax and spend your way out of it. And if you're a Republican, you can't cut and spend your way out of it.
Right.
The taxes are the price that we pay for civilized society. And so what we need to do is find a way to better utilize the resources that we do have, so that we can empower people to create jobs, think creatively, and and lower the cost of living on a household level for people in this state.
And also with elections, it's also always in the controversy aspect when it comes to legalizing marijuana. So for your platform, does the legalization include any ways to combat the abuse of people using marijuana and associated addictions?
Sure, absolutely, and that's a really good question, because there's a lot involved in that. So first off, I'll answer your question directly about the mental health aspect of it. As a veteran, mental health is obviously near and dear to my heart. And we have Marines, we have soldiers, sailors, airmen coming back from overseas dealing with PTSD, right, and post-traumatic stress disorder, for those of you that know. And that can be challenging. It can be really challenging. And so what we do right now is we send them to the VA. The VA prescribes narcotics, opiate, anything but marijuana. And as a result, with the pharmaceutical cocktail, we've got people end up getting suicidal and deal with severe bouts of depression, and we don't need that. That's not the right approach. The right approach is to legalize marijuana, but not just marijuana, but both cannabis, marijuana and hemp, and I'll talk about that in a second. But legalize marijuana because it has a property that helps people forget. Now, people like to make a joke about that, right?
Right.
But from a military standpoint, that's a good thing because when you see things that we've seen overseas, it's not something that you want to bring home.
Right.
So that's something that's a big reason why it ought to be legalized. Now, we've also learned lessons in Colorado. Now, Colorado has created thousands of jobs for people, jobs that didn't exist before. They've raised hundreds of, I think it's like a couple $100 million in tax revenue at this point. And if you look at the roads, I mean, we obviously can use the tax money, and we definitely can use the jobs. Right. And so those are a couple of key issues. Now, finally, we spend $150 million a year in Michigan alone to put people in prison for smoking something. I mean, come on, how ridiculous is that? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just silly. And from a liberty standpoint, we need to make sure that people are not going to prison for smoking. Anybody who has been caught up in that fiasco needs to have, so long as they're not violent, needs to have those records expunged.
Right.
We need to put a job training program in place and help them go back to work, specifically in this industry and others. But I also include a job training and hiring tax credit, as well as a blight restoration tax credit, specifically targeting this industry, because it's something that for this climate could in the warehouse space that we have in Detroit, we have a huge opportunity to take advantage of it.
So let's take a step back from the marijuana discussion and let's talk about your ideas and thoughts to better Michigan's K-12 education system.
Okay, that's a really good question. Education right now is extremely important in Michigan, and so because of that, here's the thing. Did you know that right now we've got legislators in Lansing and bureaucrats that are just months away from starting the school system in a school year, and they're revamping the testing requirements. Did you know that? I mean, this is crazy. So they're trying to come up with a test that's going to be that's going to be able to accurately measure and help people get into college and to measure us against the rest of the country. Except when you actually look at the test scores, the highest scoring district in this state is West Bloomfield, and only 60-some-odd% of those students are supposedly college ready according to this test. Now, Berkeley has a very good school district. Ferndale does too, and yet only 20% of the people that are college ready according to this test. That sounds like the test is rigged to me.
Right.
So now here's the other thing. Now, when I went and gave a talk to a football team out in Romulus, what I learned, because there are a couple of staff sergeant recruiters out there, Marine staff sergeants, and they're telling me that low-income school students are not, pretty much none of them can qualify to join the military. Now, if our K-12 system is doing so poorly that we can't even prepare people to join the military, which is equivalent to a labor job, then we are failing as leaders. So what we need to do, in my opinion, is take the testing out of the hands of the bureaucrats, and let's just do something that we know that works. The ASVAB. We know that works. It helps people get out of poverty. They can join the military. They can they can get a labor job if that's the case. And then it focuses on critical thinking skills. So at the very least, it teaches you to be resourceful and to think for yourself and to solve problems, which is another way of saying become entrepreneurial, which is what we need in this state.
Alright, so staying on the topic of education here at Java Hut, with this next question, talking about student loan debt for college students and graduates in Michigan, does your plan include any financial assistance from the government at all?
It's not assistance from the government that we need. It's just a better structure in general. Right? So right now, college or student loans are fixed by Congress, and what you don't have with Congress are financed by banks. And a lot of them are as big as a mortgage, float like a credit card, and have no payment or no date at which they're expected to be paid off. That's crazy. Right? You haven't even gotten started with a job yet. You don't even know if you're going to get a job, and you're expected to be able to carry this on your back. That's ridiculous. So here's what my plan calls for, and this fits right into my wheelhouse as a finance guy. So there are two companies out of California, Prosper and Lending Club, that have pioneered this concept. What they do is they connect borrowers with lenders and cut the bank out of the middle. In doing so, you cut out the bank's 15 to 20% profit margin, and you replace it with a 1% transaction fee. And so what you're going to do is you're passing the savings along to both the borrowers and the lenders. The net effect is going to be a reduction in the cost to the students and improvement in return on investment for the investors. So everybody wins. So, overall terms. So, for example, a lot of people that are paying $1,000 a month, and they don't know when it's going to be paid off. This would probably cut that in half, because when investors compete to finance your loan, we win.
Right.
So investors compete, we win, and that's really the crux of it. And it's just, again, it's not about raising taxes for government assistance. There are private sector solutions out there. We just need to put them to work.
Right. All right. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about. As a graduate of Michigan State University and a potential state representative, what do you feel needs to be done on campus at local colleges through the districts that you are serving when it comes to safety for these college students with an increase on sexual assaults and various incidents against women taking place here on campus?
Sure. Well, first off, go green. Secondly, that's a very serious issue. And education, I think, is at the heart of it. When you go to college, people are just living carefree, they're having fun. There's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of exploring yourself type of activities, right? And so when you do that, sometimes people make decisions that they don't necessarily aren't too happy about later on. So what we need to do is make sure that everybody, both men and women, are properly educated about the decisions that they're making before, so that and how they're going to feel after they make a certain decision, so that we can avoid these situations in the first place. I mean, the last thing we want to do is create a police state. We don't need cops on every corner. We don't need that. It would be good if we leveraged maybe Twitter, and if we leveraged certain technologies to allow people to get in touch with people when they need it. Make sure that there are proper safety, there's street lamps in every corner, that sort of thing. But beyond that, it just really comes down to make sure everybody's educated on the subject.
Right, just making sure everybody's making smarter decisions, right, as well as having that stable security there on college campuses.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so last question for you, Joe. Even though Detroit is not in your district that you would be serving if elected, Detroit is facing some serious problems, finances, bankruptcy, all sorts of stuff going on. They're trying to increase, trying to make a better city. What are your thoughts on the problems that the city of Detroit is facing?
Okay, well, the city of Detroit, first off, as Detroit goes, so goes Southeast Michigan. So whatever it is that we decide to do in Lansing, we need to make sure that that Detroit is at the heart of it. Now, I'm glad that we put together that that the state and the city and nonprofits were able to work together to put out that bailout package. And I've been fully in support of the entrepreneurial initiatives that are going on down there. I like the fact that we finally put together a transit plan running down Woodward. That's going to benefit labor as well as business. It's going to improve the mobility of everybody. So that those are all very, very important key aspects of redeveloping and getting Detroit going again. Now I go back to the plan on student loans, because right now 40% of graduates in the state are leaving for jobs elsewhere. If we were to put together the solution that I have for student loans, legalize cannabis, right, and put in place the job tax credit for hiring, training, as well as blight restoration, we would have a boom in Detroit. I mean, an absolute boom. All that empty warehouse space downtown would be filled up, and people would be going back to work. And especially if we expunge felonies and misdemeanors related to cannabis, which is the right thing to do. So those are key points, and I think that if we did that and then revamp K-12 education and focus on critical thinking and problem solving, then we'd be much better off as a state. People are going to want to stay here, and as a result, then we'll end up creating thousands of clean, green jobs in Michigan. Now, Tyler, I want to thank you for having me out here today, and for giving me the opportunity to speak with everybody at home as well as with you. I did put together something called the Renew Michigan Blueprint, and I've got a draft copy right here. We're going to be releasing it this week. Awesome. It talks about in detail some of the concepts that we just summarized today. It's a little bit long. It's about a 15-page PDF. For all you readers out there, you might enjoy it. There is a summary as well, in case you just want to look at a one-page snapshot. So the best way to find that is to go to renewmichigan.us. That's renewmichigan.us, and that'll forward you to my page. and then and you'll have the answers. Now, I ask you to come out and vote. I'm asking for your support. August 5th is right around the corner. What I bring to the table is leadership experience and new ideas, and I think that these are issues that are important to all of us. And I'm asking you to join the team and let's make a difference in Lansing. So thank you, Tyler. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. Also, I want to thank you, for allowing us to interview you. For all the latest election coverage, you guys can log on to our website. Speaking of that blueprint draft idea, we'll have all the election coverage information, that as well, posted up on our website. So we make it all simple for you guys. www.youngdetroitshow.wordpress.com, or you guys can also find it up on our Facebook page, facebook.com/YoungDetroitShow. Thank you again so much, Joe.
Thank you.
Remember, August 5th is your election.
There you go. Thanks, Tyler.